Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Drag Reduction Sisters podcast. Today we will be covering the French and the Hungarian Grand Prix. And today we have myself, Liv, we've got Orla, and we also have another member of the Drag Reduction Sisters team who is on the podcast for the first time. We'd like to introduce Lou.
Hi!
Hi!
I'm Lou. I'm the mom of everybody.
Lou, would you like to tell us where you're from and how you got into F1 really quickly?
I am from Venezuela. It's South America, just on top of Brazil and Colombia. I got into F1 when I was like 3 or 4 years old because my dad is a huge F1 fan and I used to watch with him the races. I saw Schumacher win at least 5 of his 7 world titles.
Nice. Well, we're happy to have you here and we look forward to your input. So if you haven't listened to our podcast before, we do split each episode into 3 segments that each letter represents one letter of our podcast name, Drag Reduction Sisters. So the first segment is D for drama. The second segment is R for results. And the last segment is something beginning with S. And this topic can change from week to week, depending on what happened during the race. So it's always a surprise. So let's start with drama, and we'll begin with the drama from France. And the first and only thing that comes to mind is Ferrari drama. And I'm sure you both would agree.
Yes. Do you know what? I feel so bad for Charles, when he crashed out.
Yeah. I mean, you could see how upset he was. It was heartbreaking.
And I remember they had the radio, and normally they play the driver's radio and then they cut it off, when they stopped talking. And they kept it going. And I was like, why is he still on? Just breathing down the microphone. And then he just went, no, out of nowhere. I started laughing because I was like, whoa, I was shocked. You could actually hear the pain in his voice just from that one scream.
Yeah, it was definitely a surprise.
It was like something from a film. What's that film? Rush. You know what I mean? You'd think it would be it's something, it sounds like it could be written, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it didn't sound real, but it was just so dramatic. That's the word I'm trying to find.
Which is why we're talking about it in the drama section.
Yeah. And then Ferrari's pit wall. What is going on there?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there display delayed or something? Because are we watching the same race? Surely you would say, okay, go for the overtake. That I think was for the podium.
Yeah. And in case you don't remember what happened to our listeners, essentially what was happening is Carlos, was doing his thing. He was catching up to Checo and he was asking over the radio. I think he was asking if Red Bull had pitted yet. And he was saying that he wanted to come into pit, but the team said, no, just stay out. So seconds after that, he was actually able to catch up to Perez and overtake. I believe that was for the 3rd place. And that was happening basically right at the entrance of the pit lane entry. And as it was happening, his engineer comes back on the radio and says, okay, Carlos, you got a box now. And he's like, what? He's like, not now. Yeah, and even the commentators were like, why would they ask him to do that? Were they not watching what was just happening?
How do you not know? Because you have all the data that you can have and maybe even more. So you know how the race is going. You know what to do. You've been here for ages.
Yeah, there's always so much indecision. It doesn't seem like they're ever confident in what they're doing. And you can see that even when they change their mind, we're like, okay, we want you to come in. And then they're like, actually, no, you have to stay out now. And it's like, what? You can't be making these calls just on the dime like that.
Yeah, they're not even aware of their own penalties. Who was it? Carlos's engineer got onto him. And he was like, "Oh, we have a 5-second stop and go." And Carlos was like, "No, it's just a 5-second penalty." He had to tell his own engineer what his own penalty was.
Yeah.
How do you even mess that up?
They have all the computers, yet Carlos in his car knows more about what's going on than they do.
But he done that, I think, earlier in the year as well. I can't remember what race it was. It might have been Silverstone. And he said, he was given his own engineer, his own strategy. No, we'll pit this time and we'll do this. So, he's on the ball, you know what I mean?
That was iconic.
Stop inventing.
Yeah,
I think it was Silverstone.
I think it was Silverstone, yeah. But no, Ferrari
No, stop inventing. Don't do that.
Ferrari are just sabotaging themselves. It is.
Yeah.
I think that whole fiasco of him saying he wanted to come in, the team saying stay out, and then when they told him to come in, reminded me of Monaco. And then, I mean, when they eventually decided to pit him, that's when they realized that they had to serve the 5-second penalty, and they threw away that podium because he already had the move done, and it just reversed everything that he was working to do up until that point.
Mm-hmm. He was like, did he start from the back?
He did.
Then, yeah, because he had an engine, I think it was replacement or something. And he ended up getting onto the podium, and then it could have been like, you know, like when they go on, that's like the greatest race. Like, it could have been like Checo in Bahrain. He could have possibly even won the race for all we know. But no, he ended up in P5 in the end because of Ferrari.
There's a thing that we say a lot in football, equipos de mente chica. It's basically like you're a big team, but you're thinking like you are a second league team where you have nothing to lose, and that's what Ferrari is doing right now. They are so big and they have a huge fan base because the Tifosi are maybe the most intense fans in F1. We are talking about big races, Formula One, the big circus, the best strategists, and what is going on inside that we don't know, and we only are seeing the outcome of it. Is Binotto really fit for team principal? Because let's remember that he was an engineer before getting that position. So
he was kind of just ushered into the role.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're only halfway through the season, and we all remember how strong they were at the beginning of the season. Everybody was like, you know what, this is Ferrari's year. Like, they really got something here. And it seems they could be carrying on with that momentum if they really, like you're saying, commit themselves to understanding what they're doing wrong and fixing those mistakes when they happen. But it kind of seems like in a way that they just gave up. Like, I feel like that's maybe a bit extreme, but something is clearly wrong. And again, like I said, we're already at the summer break. So much time has passed and they have not been improving. They've only been going downhill from where they started.
But like, didn't Binotto say something about upgrades? And he was like, no, we don't need any more, or something along those lines as well. I remember in an interview, I don't know if it was real or not, but I do remember seeing something about that. And I was like, what? Like, are we talking about the same car? The one that like blows up every week? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, we know that the car is definitely better than others, but I can't remember now if it was France or Hungary or both, but both Carlos and Binotto were complaining about problems with the car. I think more so than issues with their strategy, which was kind of concerning because I feel like strategy is the first problem and the car is the second problem. If there even is a problem with the car.
I don't think there's a problem with the car.
Yeah, I'm not convinced either from what we're seeing.
Yeah, you can have reliability issues and the engine and all you want, but you have a good car, like a very good car. What are you doing with it? Maybe a lot of people will hate me because of that, but I truly think that Charles got cold feet when he thought of winning the championship because he has everything, but the mentality that you need to have in order to win and keep yourself cool, like Max, basically, he doesn't have it. That's affecting him because France was not a Ferrari's mistake. It was his mistake. I hate it. I do, but it was his mistake.
No, I get where you're coming from. Like, I feel like Charles, in a way, kind of panics when he starts leading races. And that, because like what you've noticed, like, I think it was France as well, for sure. I think there might have been another race. Every time he's in P1 or he starts from pole, he ends up doing something that costs him like the win. And I think he starts to panic when he gets in the lead because he's kind of like, oh God, what do I do? Yeah. I don't know. I think the pressure is kind of getting to him in a way. And like, it's awful because you hear him in interviews and he says like, no, it's my fault. Like, we're not going to win and all this stuff, when half the time it's not even his fault, but it's kind of taken a toll on him. So I'm hoping over the summer break now, he'll get back and maybe disobey Ferrari's orders like Carlos and Silverstone, because let's see, he did win that race in the end. But
exactly,
I don't know. I just seen an article here, from Planet F1, Shadow, saying that Bonotto believes Ferrari can win the final 10 races. We'll see. Very optimistic there.
In what multiverse is that?
Yeah.
Speaking of the championship, though, can we just take a minute to talk about Mercedes, like, slowly sneaking up there?
Yeah, that was like probably the most surprising thing so far this season, because like when the races started, I'm like, oh man, like this is not Mercedes season. And it was so interesting to see them doing bad because I only started watching last season, and since then they've like always been on the top. And then they started at the bottom. I was like, okay, this is different, but you're absolutely right. Like they've had a double podium 2 weeks in a row, France and Hungary, and like they're only getting better, I think.
I think it was ever since Canada, because I can remember that's when Lewis got on the podium. But like they've just, I don't know if they upgrade their car or something. They've fixed their porpoising problem, but they've really just come out of nowhere. And like, I can't believe I'm even saying this. I was cheering for Lewis Hamilton in Hungary to get on the podium. I was actually saying my telly, oh, go on, Lewis. What? Like, in what universe? Like,
well, yeah, I
then,
find myself kind of doing the same thing because you can really see now, like, that they have to fight for the positions that they're getting because, like, they're not always starting from the front. Like, I mean, given the other week when George was on pole, but, like, you can really see that they're fighting for it. So I feel like they deserve it more because before it was just, like, way too easy for them to win races, and I kind of had no sympathy for that. But now that I feel like they're actually working for it, I would have to say the same thing. Like, I'm actually cheering them on, and like I'm happy to see them do well again, considering where they started from this season.
Even Lewis himself in like the post-race interviews, like you can actually see he looks pleased with himself. Like he was kind of shocked to see himself on the podium. He wasn't even expecting it himself, which is coming from the same man who literally was on the podium like every week last year and was like fighting for the championship. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. But speaking of fighting for, I suppose, places, Checo and George at the safety car reset.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Is this allowed? No, but seriously, like...
I have so many thoughts on that.
Well, get them all out, Lou. This is why we're here.
Okay. For me, and that this is a personal opinion, I do think George went ahead before VSC ended, but that's me.
Ooh, okay.
I do think so. Because just 2 seconds before, Checo was braking. So how in this world?
Yeah, I seen something about Checo like saying he was looking at his steering wheel or something, and that's when he didn't realize George had started going off or something like that.
Yeah, that was after the race because he said the VSC would end on turn 9. And he was ready to just go ahead after turn 9, but then he went and the VSC continued.
Actually, but yeah, on the topic of like the last corners, Aston Martin, what is going on there?
Oh yeah, like, that was weird. It was like right before the line.
Yeah, the race just ended and they were like, oh, you know, congrats, Max, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like, oh wait, actually it's not. And then we just see like Seb and Lance like scrapping in the back. I was like, what is going on? I don't know. Did they touch? Or not, because it looked like Seb almost touched the back of Lance.
Maybe almost, but I don't think they did.
They did.
Oh.
That's what I thought. But I was like, oh my, like I would love to know like what their driver like debrief was like after that race.
Yeah.
Well, and then oh my God, no, it was just so out of the blue. It was mad.
They really wanted that 1 point.
Yep. Speaking of things out of the blue, Seb's retirement. Just literally like. He created an Instagram account and then everyone was like, oh my God, what's his first post going to be? It was him retiring. I don't think anyone expected that. I think we were all kind of thinking it like, oh, Seb might retire now in the next few years, but not so soon.
Mm-hmm.
And like, oh my God, like I was actually getting emotional about it. Like it's so random.
Literally as soon as I woke up, I saw the video he put on Instagram and I'm like, what? Like this is so sad.
A notification from the F1 app and I was like, oh my God. Like, but it's so like I was right. This is really random. I was driving to the airport and I don't know why there is one there, but there's a sign on the side of the road of just a bee, like a cartoon bee. And it made me think of Seb.
Oh,
and I started getting emotional.
No.
I was like, oh no, like Seb's retiring and like he's gonna save the bees and save the planet.
I know.
But yeah, I'm gonna miss Seb in the paddock.
Yeah.
Although I don't think he's done with racing. For sure he's
No,
not. I
I don't
reckon
think
he's going to
so.
go and do like the Race of Champions again with Mick.
Our podium was Max in P1, then Lewis in P2, and George in P3. And this was actually a double podium for both France and Hungary, which was interesting. Good results for Mercedes, as we said. They're clearly doing something right, being on the podium two weeks in a row. What else were some notable positions? Oh, both McLarens were in the top 10. That was good.
Yeah.
Finally. Decent result. I have to say, like, McLaren was looking, this might be Hungary, but McLaren was looking better in Hungary.
They
than
have
been.
definitely improved.
Honestly, I don't think the other results are anything exciting. Like, I don't even know what's happening with AlphaTauri these days. I feel like they're really slipping.
Yeah, they've just gone backwards recently. Like, I don't think, have AlphaTauri even scored points recently?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
And like in qualifying, they seem to keep going out in like Q1, and it's like, it's jarring because they were doing really well at the start of the year and they've just gone downhill.
I know. I think what's most devastating for me is that last year, my prediction for this year was that AlphaTauri was going to do really well. So I'm really disappointed that it's the complete opposite.
I literally predicted Yuki on the podium.
You predicted Yuki on the podium?
Yeah, Yuki and Pierre on the podium together.
And I mean, I don't know what's going to happen after the break, but they did have some upgrades. I think they were for France. A lot of teams have upgrades for France, but notably AlphaTauri was one of them. But I don't know if that really helps. And I think Pierre did say that it didn't really help his performance, which is a shame.
Yeah, he was saying he had like no grip in high-speed corners and stuff. So that's not good because you want grip, especially driving a really fast car.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go on to Hungary and talk about the drama for Hungary.
FP3.
Yeah, Latifi in P1.
Ferrari.
That's the only P1 he would have in his whole career.
Oh,
stop. No, fair play. And also, Alex, he was P3. Like, Williams are right up there in FP3. I don't know how, but well done.
Yeah, like, I don't know what they did to get that. And wasn't it raining too?
Yeah.
So another dramatic thing, I guess, that happened for the Hungary weekend was Haas's car upgrades and being called the white Ferrari, pretty much because it looked exactly like the F-175 with the giant side pods and everything. It didn't. That was the thing. So I was watching a debrief. It was on F1 TV, I think. They were analyzing the different components that were upgraded. And they said that Mick was only 1/10 of a second slower than Kevin. So was it really worth it? Yeah. I don't know.
I don't think so.
It definitely doesn't seem like it. And I mean, honestly, Haas has been doing pretty well this season. So they probably could have gone a little bit longer without the upgrades, in my opinion. I don't think they really needed it. Like, of course, any upgrade, you would hope that it would improve performance in some way. So it's probably not totally a waste. But yeah, all things considered, I think they've been fine.
Yeah, especially Mick. Out of nowhere, he's just gotten like really good. And I don't think they've upgraded his car or anything. I think he's just switched on.
Yeah, I don't know. But I hope they continue like that for the rest of the season because they're definitely doing something right.
At this rate, Haas are going to end up overtaking Ferrari in the championship.
I mean, anything can happen. But like the upgrades looked pretty... I can't think of the word. Like there was a noticeable difference between what they had before and their upgrades. And they had a lot of them too.
Distinct.
That's a good word. They were significant, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we have to talk about Danny Rick double overtake.
It really showed him still being capable of driving. Like it really showed it's the McLaren this year. It's not the drivers. Like they can still make moves.
He was doing a very good race until they sent him to pit.
Onto the hard tires, which everyone was complaining about all week, and they still put them on them.
I saw the race again, and they were saying the hards are performing well for Bottas. I was like, okay, Valtteri's right at the back.
Can I just actually bring up on the topic of pit stops? There was a new fastest pit stop record during that race. It was with Checo's pit stop because I'd seen it and I was like, wait. And then I watched the DHL thing, 2.19 to be specific, because I was like, that has to be the new fastest record. Like, I know that. But apparently, Daniel Ricciardo got the second fastest pit stop of the race.
Mm-hmm.
And that's coming from the same McLaren who a couple of weeks ago were doing like constant slow stops. So can we just say, shout out to McLaren's pit crew. Well done. They really copped on this week.
Yeah.
They finally did something. Thank you.
Now, they put them on the hard tires, but I don't think that was their fault. I think that was the pit wall. But they done it really fast.
At least it was fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right after that pit stop that you're talking about, I think, when they put him on hards and he couldn't get the tires to warm. So he ended up crashing into Lance. Lance did a spin. He did apologize to Lance after the race, though. So that was
I've
nice.
seen that on Instagram. Yeah.
Do we dare talk about Ferrari's bad strategy again? Because it didn't get any better in Hungary, unfortunately.
No. Again, with the hard tires, I don't know why they decided to put Charles on them.
Yeah.
But they did.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. I mean, nobody knows anything when it comes to Ferrari strategy. It's always such a gamble.
I genuinely thought Binotto had like rage quit halfway through the race when he started getting off the pit wall and just walking away. I was
and
like,
oh,
does this
Binotto's
man
leaving the
not
pit wall.
Yeah. I was like, doesn't he want to like witness what's going on with Ferrari right now? I think he just went to the bathroom in the end. But I was like, if that's like their team principal is leaving during the race, what does that have to say? Like, what does that go to show?
Yeah,
like,
never
what's going
looks
on
good.
with Ferrari right now? No.
Yeah, but again, like,
Honestly,
even after that, they were still saying that it was the car that was causing the problems during that race, but I really don't think so.
no.
It's not the car.
I think this time it was the tire. And
It has to
again,
be,
bad strategy.
Because everybody that put hard tires were experiencing the same issues.
Exactly.
You had
So they
Daniel
had the
with-
proof.
He even asked for the soft compound, but they gave him hard. Bottas was right at the back.
He DNF.
He did
Yeah, he
at
did.
the end. And then Charles with the hards and everybody else was on mediums, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So if you're seeing that everybody's okay with mediums and soft compound, what's going on with through your mind to put hards on the car? You didn't have them on practice because it was raining, okay, but you only went with soft and medium compounds. So why hards? That's a question I would like to be answered. Thank you.
To be honest, at this rate, I'm surprised Ferrari don't just say to their drivers, just drive off the track and pick up like a track limits penalty while you're at it, because they just don't want to win, apparently. Can we just appreciate for a minute Max winning from P10 whilst also doing a 360 halfway during the race? That was pretty cool. And I don't think he means to do it on purpose, but like Yuki also attempted to do a bit of a spin. Again, not on purpose. Didn't work out as well for him. But yeah, Max has been on it these past 2 weeks.
And this is his 8th win in
Again.
the season, only getting better.
Yeah, we're getting the new Ham Ver bot, except it's Ver Ham Russ with Mercedes coming up now.
Yes.
Mhm.
2 double podiums, 2 weeks in a row. Actually, we had the exact same podium 2 weeks in a row.
Mm-hmm. Oh, F1's getting so boring, guys.
I was afraid of
Same
this.
3 people every week.
Yeah. And they promised it wouldn't be like this. It's going to be different this season. There's going to be closer
Yeah.
racing. But look what we got. No, I don't know. There's still potential for things to change.
Sure, the Red Bulls were like blown up in the first half of the year, so
Exactly. Everything has been so unpredictable. Still, George Russell got his first pole position of his F1 career, which was amazing to see
yeah, well done.
compared to when he was
almost-
crying to get his first point because he was so happy. I mean, that alone says a lot. And now he got his first pole. I don't think he cried, but he did a really good job.
He did yell on the radio.
Yeah.
Yes, boys. Yes. Ha ha. That's it.
I mean, it's only a matter of time, I suppose, until his first win.
Oh, for
He
sure.
will win before Lando.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I think you're right, though.
Yeah, with the
That's
way the McLaren is looking this year, unless something like Hungary 2021 happens where like everyone gets crashed out at the beginning, I can't see McLaren winning a race. Although Monza last year, you never know.
Yeah. Although, like, look what happened with Lando this race. Like, he started in P4. They were saying after the race that the performance of the car was better than it has been, but he ended in P7. So, like,
Yeah.
they're getting there. They're inching higher and higher, it seems like, and the performance seems to be a little bit better, but they're not quite there yet.
They're starting to consistently score points, but it's still not enough.
So a member of our Drag Reduction Sisters team, who you may recognize from other podcast episodes, Fee or Fiona, attended the Hungary Grand Prix, and she actually has some insights to share from her race weekend. So we'll switch over to Fee, who will share a few words about her experience at the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Hello, it's Fiona here. I'm giving a quick overview of my experience at the Hungarian Grand Prix, which was my first ever race that I attended in person. The weekend started off a little bit on a sad note because I am a diehard Sebastian Vettel fan, and on my way to the hotel that I was staying in Budapest on Thursday, I heard the news that Seb had announced his retirement for the season, so it was already bittersweet. But I was really, really glad that I was actually going to be able to see him race before he would retire. So mixed emotions. We had weekend tickets and we were able to buy an additional ticket for a tour of the pit lane on the Thursday. So that was really exciting. So on our way to the hotel, we passed by another hotel when we were trying to get to the underground station, and we saw a huge crowd of people and realized, oh, there must be a driver staying here. So while we were trying to find directions to where we needed to go, we said, hey, let's hang around here and see what happens. And lo and behold, there was big shouts of Pierre Gasly. And of course, Pierre Gasly appeared. So that was quite a bizarre chance. So that was quite cool. So when we went on our tour of the pit lane, we got to see all of the mechanics and the teams setting up the cars. We saw a lot of pit stop practices for all the different teams, which was really, really cool. And we saw Pierre again. He was heading out with a bicycle with two of his engineers who were on scooters. They were heading out from the garage to do their track walk. And we also saw Sebastian Vettel walking to his garage, and there was lots of fans there, you know, shouting Danke Seb, and he waved and he signed some autographs for people, and yeah, it was really, really nice. So quickly moving on from that, it was a great weekend, very mixed weather conditions. The qualifying, or even before the qualifying, the free practice sessions seemed very, you know, Ferrari dominant, and Carlos seemed to be pretty much on top. And then in FP3, the one and only Nicholas Latifi we saw he got purple in sector 1, purple in sector 2, and we were like, no way, this is not happening. And then he came P1 in FP3, and the crowd went crazy. Everyone was cheering and clapping so much. It was really, really cute and wholesome. Then Quali came along, and it was kind of an interesting one in that Max wasn't kind of in contention. There was a lot of track limits being deleted. It seemed again that Carlos and Charles, the two Ferraris, had topped the session. And then out of nowhere, pretty much at the very end of the session, George Russell got pole. So that was a big surprise. The crowd really enjoyed that too. Yeah, it was cool to see his first ever pole position, to be there for that. And then race day came along, and we saw the drivers doing their drivers' parade in their little vintage cars, which was cool. And so we were hoping for a competitive Ferrari race, considering that the two Red Bulls were starting in 10th and 11th. And of course, Ferrari did Ferrari things. But where we were sitting was actually really cool. We could see the last 4 corners. We were just after the final corner, between the final corner and the start finish line, kind of just at the DRS detection zone. So we saw a lot of cars kind of following very closely into the last corner, which hasn't been possible in previous years, but with the new cars was definitely a lot more feasible. And then the cars were able to get slipstream and then get ready for overtakes on the straight. So that was really cool. We saw a lot of overtakes. We saw a lot of cars following very, very closely. Weirdly enough, in the position we were in, we didn't see Max's spin, but we saw it happened to be covered by some advertising boards, but we could just see a load of smoke and the crowd just kind of gasping, and we were like, oh my god, his car has broken down, the Red Bull has stopped again. But no, he was just doing spins for the fans and still going on to win. So all in all, an interesting race, especially for a track which is meant to be difficult to overtake in. Unfortunately, it wasn't a day for the underdog, the final, podium result, but a good race to have seen, and Seb got a point. So I was happy.
So why don't we move on to something beginning with S?
Spain with Ferrari, but without the S.
Retweet. It's just been so bad. I mean, I was so excited at the beginning of the season because I thought this was going to be it. But it's just getting worse and worse. It's so painful. And I mean, to all those Ferrari fans who've been waiting so many years for a good result and for something to change, it really looked like something was going to happen. And now it's just going back to the way it was before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actively rooting for Ferrari to win now.
Me too, but I kind of don't want to.
Yeah, no, but
I do
this is coming from me, who's a Red Bull fan, whose team is currently leading the championship and everything. I actually want Ferrari to win. I'm like, right, Red Bull, calm down for a minute. You're a bit too good.
I think everybody's rooting for Ferrari. Everybody.
Yeah, I just want them to win, just to get a bit of their morale up again,
For sure. I think the way I look at it is I want the drivers to win because they have two really good drivers. But it's hard to root for the team because we know that as a team, they're just not delivering. So I want their wins for the drivers for sure.
I just want Ferrari's drivers to just ignore the pit wall and just do their own thing.
Yeah. I mean, Carlos set the precedent.
Leave me alone what I'm doing.
Exactly.
Literally.
Another S is the next race after the summer break, which is Spa. And as we all know, Spa didn't happen last year.
No.
So tragic.
I was fuming.
PTSD from that race.
Literally.
Honestly.
I had planned to go out to the shops with my mum just before the race. And I said to her, if something happens, then we'll go. That race was 4 hours long. I could have gone during that race, come back, and it still wouldn't have even started. I'm still fuming over that race.
Yeah, Spa was interesting for me because that was the first actual F1 race that I actually tuned in to watch after I watched DTS, got into the sport. I'm like, great, there's a race happening this weekend. I'm going to watch it. And I was sitting there for I don't even know how long. And I think I was supposed to be going out that day, but I was waiting until the absolute minute I had to leave my house because I'm like, what if something happens? I'm going to miss it. I'm going to have to record this on my TV and watch it later. And nothing ever happened.
No.
And it was so tragic. I'm like, is this what F1 is like? Does it just not go? Or I don't know.
Where's all the cars driving?
Yeah. And I was so confused because I had no idea what a safety car was or any of that. This is the first time I'd ever watched an actual F1 race play out. So I was coming in with limited knowledge, but it was so tragic. But what I'm wondering is, could it be a wet race again this year? I don't know what Spa has been like historically. I haven't done my research, but could we see that happen again?
Oh god! Well, I hope it's not as heavy as last year. If that's the case, I hope we get at least, some action on track. Also, can we just throw back to that race and the fact that Mazepin got fastest lap there?
Did he really?
Yeah, Mazepin ended up getting the fastest lap of the race.
Oh my gosh! I honestly don't even remember how it turned out because after I found out the race didn't happen, I'm like, who cares?
I think it was kind of illegal though because it was supposed to be under a safety car, so he might have sped under the safety car.
Oh my god!
Actually, I have an S, and it's really small and subtle, but Checo and sneezing.
Oh, that was funny. Sneezing on the radio.
Yeah, he just came on and was like, achoo, 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 3 times in a row. I don't know, but I found it funny. It was just so random.
Yeah, that was funny. I really get a kick out of the radios. Some of them are pretty funny.
Some of them are gas.
So we're going into the summer break and we'll be returning to Spa on August 28th for the Friday. But until then, what kind of predictions are we seeing for the second half of the season?
Well, how they've been performing recently, I reckon Mercedes are going to come right up. And even possibly the championship battle might end up being Mercedes and Red Bull again, which I kind of don't want because Ferrari have been doing so well. But with their current performance, Mercedes are really getting up there. Like, again, possibly like George could get his first win in these next 10 races with the way he's been going. So I think we might see something there with Ferrari. Max will like just keep winning again. As if that's like, oh, a bad thing. No, but like, we probably will have that same pattern of Red Bull doing well. Mick, he's been doing well recently. We might get a surprise Mick podium. We have another sprint race coming up. I can't remember where exactly, but we do have another sprint race coming up.
Oh, right. Is it Monza?
I think it's in Brazil.
Or no, did Monza already happen? No, Monza in September.
Hasn't yet, but I think it's Brazil. I think this year has a sprint race, or some random place. Like I thought it was gonna be the same as last year, but it's somewhere else. But we have another sprint race anyway.
Mm-hmm.
A lot happened. We've had like the McLaren one too. We had Lewis coming from like the very back to winning the race and all. So who knows what can happen there?
So I think based on what we've seen, at least in the last 2 weeks, I think if McLaren continues doing what they're doing now, they still have a chance to be placed higher up in the Constructors' Championship, I think, because they've been in the points a couple times now, both cars, and the performance overall just seems to be getting better. So I think things are moving upwards. We mentioned before, Lando might not get his first win this season, but it would be great if he does. If anything, maybe we could see a McLaren podium. I hope we could. That might be wishing too much, but we'll see what happens. Ferrari, I hope they really take the summer break to sort out whatever's going on there, because I don't want to see this continue for the rest of the season. I mean, it's been said that they've already lost out on Charles winning the Drivers' Championship, which is so unfortunate because it was looking so good at the beginning of the season, and it's too bad. But it just wasn't meant to be this year with how they played their cards. So whatever they can do to pull themselves together for the last 10 races will be good, because anything that they learn about doing better strategy this year will play out into next year and help each of their drivers and support them essentially, because that's what they need. They need to be doing what's best for the team and for the drivers, and they're not doing that. So I hope they get that sorted out.
Are you going to do anything in the meanwhile while there's no F1?
Yes, I started watching. I went back to watch some older races on the F1 TV app because after Seb's retirement, I started getting nostalgic, even though I've only been watching F1 for like a year. Like Spa last year was the first race that I watched. So I'm like, you know what? I want to go back and see everything that's happened up until now. Obviously, I'm not going to start from the 1960s because I think that would just take way too long. So I thought I would start in a place where I know a lot of the drivers, they're still driving now, like Alonso and Lewis and Seb and people like that. And I'm like, it would be really interesting to see not only Seb's career, but everyone's career, the people who are still driving, the different teams that they've been a part of, how they've progressed. And a lot of them have won championships before. That would be exciting to see too. So I'm just really interested in going back and seeing what I've missed. And everyone keeps telling me that no matter what season you watch, whether it's been in the last 10 years or the last 30 years or even earlier than that, it's so worth it because it's just such an amazing sport. There's so much history, and it's so great that we have access to all of that now. So I think it would be really cool to see all the changes that have happened.
But no, I get it. It's the nostalgic factor, and it's just, it's exciting because even though you kind of know the result of the championship, it's still fun seeing podiums and standings.
Exactly.
So I get it.
And already, I can already see the differences, especially in the cars. I've seen maybe 5 or 6 races in the 2010 season now, and seeing just the types of crashes and the types of mechanical errors that were happening back then. You don't really see a lot of that now. So it's really amazing to see how they've improved the mechanics and the technology of all of that as well. So that was cool to see too. Yeah, it's changed so dramatically. I mean, even between last year and this year, we all know that it's another revolutionary change. So it's an ever evolving sport. And I think that's what's going to keep it interesting for a really long time.
Exactly. Well said. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to follow us, we're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Our podcasts are also available on YouTube. Stay tuned. We're going to have a bunch of content coming out on all those platforms over the summer break and throughout the year. And we'll see you again next time. Bye.